Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here of the Raptors Digest. Ryker, we're back, we're ready to go. Another little live stream, lots of Raptors news that has sort of happened. A lot of stuff we got to talk about as we head into this year's offseason. But Ryker, before we get into any of that and people start coming into the chat, how have you been doing, man?
I'm good. This could be the last podcast or the second last podcast where I have subpar video, subpar lighting. Lighting is the big one. I have about $800 worth of equipment coming in from Amazon. I'm ecstatic to be back, Ben. You have all the news, all the rumors. I'll be a mere reaction to it.
Well, there's certainly a lot of stuff that we got to talk about, and one of them, I'll throw it up. You made these killer little graphics for the bottom, but Jalen Harris. A lot of people were asking us what our thoughts were on Jalen Harris. You've obviously heard the news. I'm assuming you've heard the news, and for people that haven't, obviously Jalen Harris, Toronto Raptors rookie this season, he was a guy that showed a lot of potential, specifically on the offensive end, to really get buckets and do different things. He had a tremendous game against the Dallas Mavericks, and then unfortunately he came out and violated the NBA's drug policy, is banned from the NBA, can apply for reinstatement next year. This came out of left field, Ryker. What are your thoughts on Raptors rookie Jalen Harris not being with the squad?
Do we know the substance?
I don't think so.
What would you tend to believe on probably like recreational drugs or performance enhancing drugs? Because
yeah, so the drugs that are in the classification to get this sort of ban, it's, meth, heroin, those types of things, and then like opioids. So there is some speculation. I obviously don't want to speculate too much and draw, but he did have surgery recently, so maybe there's some stuff going on there, but not the best look.
Not the best look. I was going to go on a point to say there's probably a disparity between subpar players, bench players, guys that are still fighting their way into the league, and how strict the league cracks down on cases like this versus guys who are chronic recreational drug users that never seem to get reprimanded. But if we're saying that it's an issue of hard drugs or super illegal substances, then there's really no place for that in the league. You're getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Wait until after you're retired to get into that kind of stuff. But again, if we don't know, hard to speculate. Tough to see him go, though. He is a talent for sure. He had some really brilliant flashes at the end of the season when he got some extended run, and he was one of our few like larger guards, and he seemed to have a pretty clean stroke at that.
No, he was a shooter. He's a bucket getter for the G League. I'm peeping the chat here, getting used to the new studio setup. You gotta look over to the left a little bit more now. But the really interesting thing with this Raptors squad, and we talked about it to death coming into this year, we had a load of guards. We had a multitude of guards that were fighting for minutes, and obviously they're in the thumbnail now. People are just calling Jalen drugs in the thing. We're gonna draft Jalen. Jalen Suggs is likely coming into this team, but we have Fred. We're not sure what's gonna happen with Lowry. Malachi Flynn showed a lot of promise, and then we had Jalen Harris and Paul Watson in the backcourt that are gonna be fighting for minutes. Did show some solid things as we were in our tanking year playing the Kazoos, but do you think that opens up like more opportunities for Paul Watson? Do you think he's going to get a chance to run here, and maybe even a Malachi Flynn?
Well, you'd only imagine that he'll get a chance, but when you have guys that don't want to jump too far ahead that are being rumored to maybe be in the trade market for the Toronto Raptors, I saw Colin Sexton. I saw apparently the Raptors have the best possible position to land Damian Lillard, whether it's via trade or in free agency or something like that. The rumors are wild. They're left, right, and center. So I'd rather, I don't know. I don't love going deep bench and development talks until we know that our core roster is locked in, which it might not be. Some of these guys might end up being trade pieces.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And maybe even guys that you can trade your more valuable pieces right now and use them as insurance guys, right? Obviously, last year we had our insurance pylon, Aaron Baines, in the deep bench. Not sure if he's going to come back, obviously. Australia, maybe a little tangent here. We'll lead these. People are asking about the Simmons and the Wiggins, all these guys in the thumbnail. But do you see the stuff with Team USA losing to Nigeria and Australia?
Ben, I take a week off to go and do a little bit of camping and hiking and Banff and Jasper. No masks, by the way. What a crazy world that they live in. I come back to a parallel universe where well, Canada getting bounced is nothing new, but it's disappointing that Wiggins makes his return. They don't even get past the qualifying tournament. But then you hear that the United States losing to Nigeria is crazy. Australia is not that weird, but off of a loss to a lesser team, you'd expect USA to come back with the heat. But I don't know, man. It's weird. I wouldn't mind seeing USA lose in the actual Olympics, but they just have so much scoring on their team. It's tough to think that they'd actually lose in the legit tournament.
Yeah, no, that's a crazy thing. And then it's still a cool situation to see the rest of the world start play well. I think Aaron Baines was injured for the Australian team. But
he played. He
played. He did the jump ball, but I think he was injured at some point for it. He beat
got
Katie
injured, but he definitely played the first quarter. I saw the highlights.
Yeah, no, he played a little bit there. I'll keep the things so when we go on these little tangents and stuff. Got rid of the Jalen Harris banner there, but the Nigeria team, I was hoping OG was going to be on that roster, and I think he was invited, but then he ended up turning it down maybe for some training and stuff. But to see the rest of the world sort of come out and play that level against the US, that's a really cool sight to see. But you brought it up, unfortunately, that the Team Canada led by Nick Nurse, and we're going to be diving into the coaching staff and all that. We got a long live pod coming on, so lots of topics to be had, but you saw that crazy stretch by Andrew Wiggins the last 10 seconds.
No, I didn't see it.
I got to describe it to you, Riker. The guys were down with 50 seconds left. I keep saying the Toronto Raptors. Team Canada was down by 10 to, I think it was Czech Republic. I don't even remember the team we were playing against. I just assumed that Canada would get the W, right? They get mess of a game. This other team, we were shooting about 17% from three the whole time. And then with about 50 seconds left, Andrew Wiggins comes down, hooks up a three, cuts it to 7. We get another steal. We end up cutting this 10-point lead, tying it, go into overtime in 50 seconds. Some wild shots from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Andrew Wiggins. It was wild. They came out in overtime, led by 6 points in the first minute of OT, and then choked it down the stretch to a Thomas Satoransky game winner. That was heartbreaking as a guy that wanted to see Team Canada with the amount of NBA talent that we have, and obviously we didn't have the necessary bigs there, right? Birch didn't play, Boucher, Tristan Thompson, so we're really running pretty small ball. Trey Lyles, I think, was our main guy down in the block, and Dwight Powell. So we were undersized in this game against Czech Republic, I believe it was, and got bullied down there. But this team, I thought, could have really competed at the Olympics with the amount of NBA talent we have.
On paper,
yeah,
second best team in the world. Ben, wasn't it Thomas Satoransky that, what's his name? Gary Trent Jr. hit the game winner on?
He's getting back at Canada. He's
seeing red. He was seeing red. It doesn't matter if it was an American player. He had that vengeance in him. So it's only fitting that he gets a game winner of his own. If it is correct that it was Thomas Satoransky.
Yeah.
Remember, it was the push off. It was like a push off.
Yeah.
Pull up from three.
Going down. Gary Trent Jr. Man, he had a ridiculous stretch to end that season, Gary Trent Jr.
I'm so glad he played bad to end the season, because it might have saved ourselves a couple of dollars at the end of the day. But Ben, this is a point. I'll bring it back to Team Canada, because they unarguably have the second best roster assembled in the world right now. Somebody might argue with me, but they have a ton of talent. They're a real powerhouse now coming up in the NBA. Seems like same issues probably that you raised that Team USA is having. They just don't have that big man presence. They don't have enough defense to really keep up with how big and physical international play is. But if we look at Andrew Wiggins specifically, because he was the guy that was rumored to be the contract matcher in a potential Pascal Siakam trade, which was legitimized by some actual reporters saying that, a trade's out there for Siakam and Wiseman, Wiggins, and potentially a pick or something. Does Wiggins' stock, in your eyes, go up or down now as a trade piece for the Toronto Raptors to receive?
I don't know if international competition really affects.
But think about it this way. Is at least it gives you a sample of putting him on a brand new team, putting him into a brand new role where he's not with Steph Curry. He'd be looked at
coach squad.
Nick Nurse coaching. He'd be probably considered one of the best or the number one options on the team if we brought him in. So, what, up or down?
It goes up. Clearly, he had a solid tournament, but the team did still lose, and he wasn't the most efficient from the field. And let Are we diving straight into the trade talks real early? I got the trade machine animation popping up if you want to bust out that Wiseman Wiggins deal, because that's an interesting topic that's been floated about. The Warriors seem to be offering that package to the Blazers for Damian Lillard. The Sixers, they've been rumored a little bit, and then obviously Pascal Siakam. Has your mind changed? Because we've covered this a little bit pretty consistently over since it was initially rumored and then it got really reported. Has your opinion changed on that package as of now, with, Wiggins, as you said, playing well in Team Canada under Nick Nurse's system, right? Siakam with the shoulder injury, all these sorts of things. Looking at the draft lottery, seeing a lot of guys in that pick 7 range, which could be very valuable. Would you be more inclined to do that Siakam deal at this point, Riker?
Now that we know we're getting the 4th pick.
Yeah.
Because that was the big difference last time we broke it down. We thought 7, and there was nobody legit at 7, maybe that Australian guard sort of point forward type guy. But it becomes a lot more interesting now because at the very worst, you're drafting Jalen Suggs. So if you're trading away a power forward for a center, you need to kind of you still need to bring in another big man in free agency. That's what I'd need to hang my hat on if I'm going to pull trigger on this trade. But you're getting a decent return for a guy who majority of our fan base is saying is at his all-time low in terms of trade value. So I don't hate it. If there's better trades out there, I'd probably opt to not trade Pascal Siakam. But now that we know we have the 4th pick, I'm open to the idea, Ben.
Yeah, that's because, you look at the just young core that this Toronto Raptors team would have at that point with, and I'm not saying for sure that I think we've talked ourselves in and out of this trade consistently over the summer, but the young core of a Jalen Suggs, Fred VanVleet to lead the group, lead the squad, and then Jalen Suggs, who's 20 years old himself, OG Anunoby at age 23, Gary Trent Jr. 22, 23, another top 7 pick, right, which would probably be in that same early 20s range, and then James Wiseman at your center, who's only 20 right now. That's a lot of young, promising talent with a lot of potential. And I see people in the chat kind of going at it saying, Wiseman's not very good, he can't shoot, he's a bust and all that sort of things. But he does have a nice jumper on him. His IQ isn't necessarily where it's at, where it needs to be an actual big man, specifically on the defensive end. He's pick and roll defense. He doesn't make the right reads. He doesn't make the right decisions. But that's what happens when you have a 20-year-old rookie coming in and trying to make his way, prove himself on a Golden State Warriors roster with playoff aspirations. And he didn't get that consistent run with Kevon Looney there, playing at the level he was playing at, just fitting better around Steph Curry and these guys. These big men, they take a couple years to really develop and come into their own. I'm not gonna trash on Wiseman. It's the number 2 pick. I think he's still a tremendous asset to bring in, maybe even a buy low guy, right? You have to go all out in that direction though. If you're going for that youth movement, you don't want to sort of halfway it and then sign different guys and then do different things, right? If you have that young core, you go all out for it and then build around them smartly, get the right amount of veterans, and then maybe we could have one of those sort of Atlanta Hawks runs. I guess they brought in a few more vets, but like in the next season where you have a young core, they had Trae Young, obviously, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, right? That main group of young guys. I guess a Kongwu can be added there, but also piecing in the right amount of veterans to make a deep playoff run, which I think everyone wants after that horrific season we just witnessed.
Yeah, well, we certainly don't want to have to break out the kazoos again.
I'm breaking out the super chat. I was trying to break out the kazoos, but I threw out the super chat. No super chats yet, but I'll throw on the kazoos.
You're fishing. But I'm lost for thought. We were basically talking about being high or being low on Wiseman and whether or not it's a move to trade to go a bit younger. And it's really your own opinion on what you want to do. And if you see the Toronto Raptors as having enough core pieces, i.e. Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet, OG, we assume that they're probably locks. Do you think that team plus young guys can make a playoff push? I would think that team should be better than this year's Miami Heat, right? It should be better than this year's Charlotte Hornets. I would say the Hawks, but they ended up being a real surprise, and God, they look so good in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, I'm still of the camp, you're of the camp, that if you're able to do other things to put a better player around Pascal Siakam, that's the better move. Because to me, to have a scoring power forward, there's just not a lot of guys that can match up well with him if he's doing the things that make him a good player. I.e. tacking the basket, running the fast break, using his dribble moves, not spinning too much, and not settling for the three.
Hey, don't be bashing that spicy piece spin. That won us an NBA championship, but he's you don't want to give Siakam up for peanuts, and I think it's tough. You have to be high on the guys in the draft, right? Having whoever's around that 7. I know Scotty Barnes is a guy a lot of people want, Josh Giddey, these types of players. We have a little graphic for draft talk, which we'll swing into in I guess once we clue up the Siakam to the Warriors points, because we made a couple of whole videos on that. You guys could check those out. But it's an interesting deal. It's all about the direction you want to go in with the draft and the team going forward, moving in all these directions. But let's swing it into a little bit of NBA draft talk, Toronto Raptors draft talk. And obviously, he's in the thumbnail. The guy that is most likely to fall upon the Toronto Raptors at the 4th pick, Jalen Suggs. Sucking for Suggs. It's where this team has gone. And he's encouraging. Defense, he can shoot the ball pretty well. From everything we've heard, or I've heard just reading up on the guy, consistently people talk about him as a winner. Right, that's his bread and butter. That's in his DNA. Have you come around on the Jalen Suggs sort of draft talk? Do you look at him as more of a valuable asset before we dive into the rumors of other players falling to the Toronto Raptors at 4?
Well, you said it yourself. The Raptors want to make, everybody that supports the Raptors want the Raptors to make a playoff push.
Yep.
And his position and his size is the least able to come in and make an impact for the playoffs and for the regular season, unless you want to not play Fred 40 minutes a game, which would make sense. And ideally they don't play him a crazy amount and allow him to get injured like Lowry seems to get injured every season. But you can have the best NBA point guard in the entire league on your team, i.e. the Portland Trailblazers, but then you're lacking at that 3, 4, 5 position. And you can.
You were saying Kyrie Irving is the best point guard. You were saying over on Courtside Digest that Kyrie Irving is the number 1 point guard in the league.
Yeah, but it's tough for me to say you can have Kyrie Irving and not do well, because they did well, and then he went down. And
Kyrie, that's silly take.
Silly take. I'm calling you out for that. The best example, Ben, is that Damian Lillard is by far and away one of the top NBA point guards. And Jalen Suggs, by no means possible, is going to come in anywhere near the level nor the playing time that Damian Lillard gets on his respective team. And they have a struggle with defensive identity, having a really good sort of perimeter defenders at that 3 to 4 spot, good inside scorers. Nurkic is all right, but I raised my eyebrows with him. Their fan base defended it over on Courtside Digest, but suffice it to say, they disappoint every season. So just the point guard alone isn't enough to get it done, especially when the composition of the Raptors is similar to the Portland Trailblazers, that we still need to figure out what we're going to do with that 3, 4, 5 position. Not necessarily 3, but maybe 3 off the bench, but certainly 4 or 5 spot.
Yeah, well, not necessarily 4, because Siakam's going to be at the 4, maybe like the backup positions or whatever, right?
Yeah, but how's he going to come back after injury? How long is that going to take, right? Are we going to be able to rely on him, or is he still going to suck? Are we going to want to play him down the stretch, or is he going to keep missing closing shots and game winners?
He was our best player last season, just on a bad team. It is what it is, but I'm higher on Suggs than you are. I know what you're saying, that you don't have that game-changing ability at the point guard position, or it's tough to really turn a team around. But I tend to disagree with you there. We've seen what Kyle Lowry has, a prime example, done to this Toronto Raptors team over the course of the year. Yes, did he himself turn us into a championship team? No, but he is getting older. He might potentially leave. We need another guy that can sort of fill that role. Fred VanVleet could be in that position, but I think Lowry or Suggs kind of takes more up the defensive playmaking guard that can shoot the 3. Fred's more of a score first guy, and we certainly need a lot of scoring on this team, as we learned this season. But I think Suggs sort of fills the holes that we might lose with Kyle Lowry, or whether he leaves this team or he ends up aging out of his abilities, which is certainly going to happen at some point. And Ryker, we have our first super chat of the off season, I guess. Well, I guess we're calling the off season now. The NBA is still going on, but Zion, is it Is it Zian? Oh no,
I'm
Charles Barkley and myself. Would you trade OG with our 4th pick for the 1st pick, Riker?
Well, this is a loaded question because would I trade OG to the Pistons is absolutely not. I am vehemently opposed to that idea. But would I trade him to any old team for the 1st pick, even if it wasn't the Pistons that had that pick? The answer is still, I don't know. Do you think that Cade Cunningham is that good that it's worth trading away, our best 3-and-D guy by a landslide? And what we continue to argue every season, one of the most mobile, utilizable defenders in the NBA, because you can put him against any position. And he steadily improved his offensive game.
I don't know if I trade OG for the 1st pick, not even adding the 4th pick in there. I think OG is that valuable to our team. I look at him as almost an untouchable, unless you're getting a guaranteed superstar. And I don't know. I think OG is the most valuable guy on this team, and that might be a hot take, but you brought it up. You alluded to it. The mobility on the defensive end, the room for growth in terms of ball handling, 3-point shooting. He's the quintessential guy that you want on your team in the modern NBA. He's the perfect complementary player and could become the perfect complementary star for a guy. Maybe he takes the leap as the number 1 option, which I think is still in the cards potentially, right? If he gets that handle going, the midi game gets taken to a whole nother level. Obviously his 3-point shooting is solid right now, but getting more stuff off the bounce, right? I think he's still on that trajectory with Kawhi Leonard. Maybe he needs to win an NBA Finals MVP next season, but I digress on that one. But regardless of the unrealistic jumps for OG, expectations for him, he has gotten better every season, and I do see him being like that fringe level all-star in the near future, right? So maybe it's a bit naive or something to say that I wouldn't trade him for the 1st overall pick in Cade Cunningham, who could be that generational type talent, but that's a risk that maybe you do it straight up. But I'm definitely not adding Suggs into that, or the 4th pick and OG for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, but nobody's taking OG for the 1st, a 1-for-1 swap. Even if that was allowed, yeah. I don't see something like that happening. But I'd prefer to keep OG untouchable. I'm willing to move Fred. I'm willing to move Pascal Siakam. Everybody hates our idea with trading Fred for Ben Simmons, but I'm going to toss it back. Don't spoil it.
We're leading people on. We can't diverge into the Ben Simmons talk just yet.
All right, we're still on trades, but people have been saying trade up, trade down, right? There's a bunch of different ideas with maybe we can leverage our 4th pick if you're of the same camp as me, that you're not totally convinced that Suggs. And here's another reason that I'm not fully sold on Suggs is because we just almost maxed out our point guard of the future. So it's hard to get excited about another point guard, because if we're getting that excited, Suggs is the next guy. He's a great player. He's going to be an impact guy for us. He needs to get Fred's minutes, because there's nobody that hates that tandem of point guards in the backcourt more than me. I hate it. I despise having 2 foot.
Suggs is tall.
Yeah, but then that means you're gonna play him at the 2, so you're playing him out of position. I want Gary Trent Jr. to be in the starting lineup at the 2, and feel free to, give a rebuttal to that. But I'm just not sold on Suggs because we just paid out Fred, and there's ways around that, and so I won't spoil it like I just did a moment ago. But
the Ben Simmons talk is coming. It's coming.
But if we can't trade up, would you trade down?
I wouldn't trade down. I'm not trading down. I think the top 4 assets and the Kaminga talk I do want to dive into a little bit, but I do want to focus on the trading up side of things, or those top tier players, because those are the guys that you want. You want, obviously, Cade Cunningham. We talked about him. You'd have to give up a Suggs and an OG to get him, and I don't think we want to do that, and probably the Pistons don't want to do that either. They're probably sold on Cade, even though there's been talks about the Houston Rockets trying to trade up and all that sort of stuff, and we'll get into all that. But you want Jalen Green and Evan Mobley more than Jalen Suggs, so you're confirming that you're still on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I would prefer a score. I'd prefer a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, well, Suggs can play the 2, so 6'4".
But I don't want him out of position. We had 3 years with Fred out of position as a 6-foot guard playing the 2, and won us a championship. But we also had Kawhi Leonard on the team, and you're not going to get a player like that back anytime soon. So
I don't know. But the winning
Think about
culture, the things coming in, just a rebuttal. I want guys that fit that Raptors culture, that Raptors breed, that are going to succeed. Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
What about
what position does Devin Booker play?
2.
The 2. Chris Paul.
The 1.
And that is a natural 1 and a natural 2, right? And you made the comment yourself. I don't know if it was on or off podcast. They have the ideal basketball roster assembled where you have the perfect mix of role players, superstars, guys that play in their position. Everybody's a defender. I mean, the Phoenix Suns are really what the Raptors were when they won a championship and what we want the Raptors to return to.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ryker, we have a super chat coming in. I don't have my contacts in, so I got to look really close to the computer to read these. From John Lem. I'm pronouncing the G at the end, but I'm assuming we don't even need guards. We just need a big. And that feeds right into our point about Evan Mobley. I think Jalen Green, it's kind of the consensus he's going top 2. But there's rumors that the Cavs might select Jalen Suggs at the 3rd position. Some people are saying that the Rockets might take him and then Jalen Green falls to the Cavs and the Cavs select him. There has been some sort of draft boards that had Evan Mobley falling to the Toronto Raptors at that 4 position. I have seen them happen. Obviously, it's the consensus order, it seems, is Cade, Green, Mobley, and then Suggs to us. But Mobley has fallen in some draft boards. People have compared him to Kevin Garnett, right? Looking at this team, and to build on John's point, right? We need a big on this squad. What would Evan Mobley? We did a whole video on Suggs. We did a whole video on Green. We haven't talked about Evan Mobley the most, and he was the guy you and I were most excited about during the Kazoo season.
Yeah, we were, because we haven't solved our center problem, Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's our solution? Right now we're sitting with Kem Birch, who we have to re-sign, correct?
Yep.
And not a lot of other options beyond that.
Don't disrespect our guy. The insurance pylon.
Aaron Baines. Well, hopefully we drop his contract. I don't need to. Well, especially with an ACL injury now, he's probably out for an entire season. You hate to do a guy dirty like that.
Mm-hmm.
You hate to drop a $7 million team option contract after he's got an injury that's completely out of his control. But
mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, that's the ruthless world of professional sport. I see a couple of super chats coming in, but I'll just conclude my point by saying Mobley's the guy. Either way you slice, dice, or cut it, whether or not he sucks, whether or not you think he's worse than Wiseman or worse than Kwame Brown or, I don't know, worse than Andrea Bargnani, he's still a big, and that sort of fills what we need right now. But we said don't draft positional, but you're just drafting the best of the 4 guys that remain. But God, I'd love him to fall to the 4th.
Yeah, you draft the best remaining, but you hope the best remaining fits your sort of team as constructed. But you mentioned we have a couple super chat. Thank you, John. We appreciate the super chat there. Then we have Zion again. I hope is that how you pronounce it?
That can't be.
Well, you gotta give it a try.
I've even been watching my anime and I don't even know. Although I guess anime is Japanese. That's definitely not a Japanese name.
You gotta give it a try.
John, I can't be John. I don't know. Give us the phonetic pronunciation.
Yep. Yeah, we'll give ourselves the Charles Barkley. But how does it feel that Siakam has a good chance of not being on the roster at the start of the season? Not hating, and please, no Ben Simmons contract. We're saving the Ben Simmons talk for soon. Don't stress about the Ben Simmons stuff, but it would be weird not having Siakam on the squad. I got his jersey last season. They can't trade Siakam unless we're getting a beast back. But I just got his jersey.
Well, why would you be happy if he's on our roster but not playing? If he's on the roster, you want him to play. You don't want him sitting on the bench injured.
Yeah, well, we want him playing, obviously. I think he means like trading.
Oh, that he could be traded. Yeah. I'm open to anything. I'm open to anything at this point if it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I get a little bit over emotional, such as the Norm Powell trade, but I fully come around. I like that Gary Trent Jr. pickup. Mm-hmm. At the time, it seemed wild to me when I don't want to get into it. I'm just going to stir myself up. I'll get the anger going, but I'm open for something weird to happen.
Get it going.
I'm going to keep that can of worms closed. So I'm open to some sort of wild trade in the offseason for sure.
The trades, we got the trade machines cooking out left, right, and center, especially on Courtside Digest. They'll probably be coming out here as we as we inch closer to more rumors. But Paul Blunt back in the super chat. Ryke, that nickname's pulling out, is bang on. We need the proper players by position. And I've stopped playing the super chat animation. We've got to play the animation for everyone. But that's fair. But when you have a top 4 pick, when you have one of those top guys or top selections, you don't necessarily go by player fit. You just want the best player possible. And then the same way the Mavericks, they had Dennis Smith Jr., but they drafted Luka, right? Dennis Smith Jr. had the potential at that point, right? I think he was averaging, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm mistaken, weird thoughts, but maybe wasn't he averaging like 17 points per game his rookie year?
Who?
Dennis Smith Jr. on the Mavericks.
Yeah, he was all right in his first year.
Yeah, he had a lot.
He wasn't Mavericks drafted though, was he?
Yeah, he was drafted the Mavericks, and then they drafted Luka, and then they got rid of Dennis Smith Jr. and played him on ball, even though Dennis Smith seemed like a part of their future, right? You just, if you can get the best talent available, especially at the top picks, you gotta do it. So that's my take on it. And we have another super chat scrolling down, Riker. I don't know if John Lem
15 and 5. 15 and 5.
15 and 5.
Right.
So it was, it was close, not 17. 17 always just feels a lot bigger than 15.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about the psychology of those numbers. But John's back. He's saying if we can't get a big from the draft, Marquis Chris would be a good pickup and would be a good fallback option. He's been a solid player. He's been a sneaky solid player for the Golden State Warriors. Obviously was a high draft pick for the Phoenix Suns and then really didn't live up to the expectations there. What are your thoughts on potentially Marquis Chris as a backup?
Free agent?
I believe so.
It's not a terribly stacked free agent class for big men or overall, really. Mm-hmm. My concern with signing somebody in this free agency is that because it's not terribly stacked, but everybody wants the same thing, so you're going to end up overpaying, right? Classic economics, supply demand. And I'd hate to lock into a mid-level contract with a guy that really is just a poor man's bench player. And so I'm not saying Marquis Chris is that guy, not saying he's bad or anything, but I would hope that the Raptors take very careful consideration as to what moves they make around the 4 or 5 spot, because if they are trying to make a playoff push, that's what they need to figure out. You're not making a playoff push with Kem Birch as your starter and no good backup, or Freddie Gillespie as your backup.
Would you rather
not happening.
Would you rather Birch or Marquis Chris as your backup center?
I'm high on Birch.
Yeah,
I'm high on Birch right now.
Yeah, I'm high on Birch. So that's the direction, but obviously the question marks are the who's going to be, getting paid, how much money is going to cost for people. So, we have is that euros? We have a super chat, and I don't know if I'm tripping. I'm uncultured on the money.
That's pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hot take: Boucher for plus picks for Claxton. We have a little.
I've been seeing that one.
Yeah, I think I saw one earlier with that. We got Danny in the super chat too. We got the coaching staff all. We got a full little thing about the new hires. So that's coming, Danny. Appreciate the super chats from both you guys. But yeah, Nick Claxton I saw in the 27th pick for Chris Boucher. What are your thoughts on that, Riker?
No, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Apparently a defensive improvement, but just the dynamic scoring of Chris Boucher, and he's an older guy. I get it. He's 27, 28, but man, you got to think
old
he
young
has
guy.
He's a young old guy, young old guy, and you got to think he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. So I'm not keen to trade him to Brooklyn, and especially because I think he would provide a lot for Brooklyn and make them very strong in the East. So yeah, we're kind of flip-flopping now back to trades. I think it's a good enough time to bring up my favorite trade idea, which is one that's sure to stir the fan base, probably get our first dislike of the video, but pretend it's the opposite day, and if you dislike the take, then do the opposite.
Riker, we haven't had our little like spike segment yet. A little like spike chant, We got Riker back. Like the video if you're excited to see the Riker back. First co-pod in the new studio. If you guys like the background, what are your thoughts on the new setup here, Riker?
I love your setup, but soon you only have 2 days to breathe, because
2 days to flex the lighting and all that.
I will be competing on the professional level, Ben. There's about 17 Amazon packages arriving between tomorrow and Monday, and it's gonna be big. We're gonna transcend. We're gonna go to the next level of YouTubing.
No, for sure. We're on that jump, that production jump. But I guess before we get into your favorite trade, we do have a more low key. We're saving the suspense for the Ben Simmons talk, and we got to talk about the new hires, Riker. We got to talk about the new hires. Danny brought it up in the super chat. He will read his out, saying, "What are your thoughts on the Raps losing Jama? He's obviously the D League development guy. I'm gonna give myself the Charles Barkley pronunciation for all this stuff. We also lost Sergio and Nate. Will it impact our player development? Riker, obviously we lost a few guys on our bench. Chris Finch is another guy that we lost the Minnesota Timberwolves midway through last year. Our bench is sort of getting depleted, right? We're losing some of our development guys, but we are bringing in a head coach from Australia, from the NBL. I forget which team specifically, but Nick Nurse is rounding out that bench. So what are your thoughts on just losing? And I think Bjorkgren might actually be coming back now that he's been fired from the Indiana Pacers. What are your thoughts on just the whole assistant coaching? Yeah, coming back to Toronto. And Sergio is obviously gone as well. What are your thoughts on just the ins and outs of Toronto Raptors coaching currently on this team?
Yeah. It really didn't go well for Bjorkgren. I empathize for that guy, but apparently it's all his personality was the issue. So
yeah,
hard to feel too bad for a guy if it's his own fault.
Yeah.
But the NBL guy, that's exciting because obviously different league, different dynamic, different style of basketball, but's won 5 championships in that league and is feeling it's time to bring his talents to the brightest lights. So he's obviously going to come with his own professional acumen. And it's funny how well we know the assistant coaches of the Toronto Raptors and all the development guys, and we know them all by name. We kind of know what they're known for, but in with the old or out with the old and in with the new, I'm sure that it won't take long to get acquainted with these guys. There just is a culture of developing talent in Toronto, and I'm reluctant to think that, if we're losing guys that we're going to pick up the lesser version of them. There's so many people around the world that are good at this whole coaching gig, and I would assume that we've found some other gems.
Are you flexing? Oh my goodness, we got thousands of things popping up. It wouldn't be a 30-minute how long podcast are we in without all the animations playing at once. But yeah, you're bringing up people from all across the world. That's the cool thing about the Toronto Raptors. They really find the diamonds in the rough when they're trying to build out their development staff. Obviously, the NBL, that's a league that's been very promising. RJ Hampton, who had a tremendous breakout second half of the season, played in the NBL. LaMelo Ball, Rookie of the Year. Having those connections down there with an assistant coach, scouting staff, that could be really cool. But, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the Raptors still with the 905 being able to go back there. Our rookies will be able to take that next step, that next leap. And it's going to be essential, especially with a top pick right now, the development. And one thing, it's been brought up a couple times. I'm not sure if it's Predator Kingdom or it's Tyrone McKenzie. I'm trying to look back through the chat. But he's bringing up Jonathan Kaminga. Kaminga, who's projected to go 5. People are saying play for the G League Ignite. People are saying he has the potential highest ceiling for a draft player. And we kind of looked at players that were on the up and up, the Mobleys. We didn't talk about Green much in this video, but we have a whole video on him. But Kaminga is a guy that, definitely is the most risky player that's projected to go in the top 5, but could potentially have the highest ceiling. Would you even think about taking a chance on Kaminga to see maybe if that upside's there? Obviously plays that wing position that you really want to add to this Toronto Raptors squad.
Ben, you're asking a guy who opened at the advice of our fellow Raptors digester and courtside digester, Josh, to start on Bet365 or Betway. I put in a mere $50 and got so panicked when I started to lose that I took out the money that I still had left and deleted the app. So you're asking me if I want to take the highest risk, lowest skilled, highest potential guy. The answer, of course, is going to be no, especially when we're not in rebuild mode, right? We're a couple of players away from being in the playoff picture, maybe only 1 or 2 players away from being in the low playoffs, mid playoffs, definitely a couple guys away from winning a championship, but I'm not looking to rebuild. Call me crazy, right? Call me crazy. But
Call you crazy?
I'm not looking to rebuild, man.
You're not looking to rebuild, but if you get that superstar potential talent, that's not necessarily a rebuild. That's sure maybe the initial year, but you brought it up. Rookies aren't going to come in and just change your complexion of your franchise right away. That Kaminga, it could be a swing all the bat. Maybe you put the $50 back into Bet 360 or whatever it is and cash out big time. Throw your money into some crypto. That could be the Kaminga move. You watch his workout videos. I've seen a couple of them. Does have the potential. That raw potential's there, but you've been baited before just watching these super athletic players come in with the long arms and stuff. Wiggins is a guy that's of similar vein, similar aesthetic, watching them sort of work out and stuff. You just see that raw athletic potential and then doesn't really translate, and that's the big question mark. And would he get the opportunities behind an OG Anunoby, Pascal, Gary Trent Jr.? Because I think Suggs is ready to go right now to be that starting guy. And then, if you look at those wing players that need those reps to get their games off, make the mistakes and all these sorts of things, and then they just don't fully develop. We saw it with Josh Jackson in Phoenix. Maybe if he was given to a team that had more opportunity, Devin Booker was there on the wing. I guess he did have some starting spots, but TJ Warren was there as well, right? If they don't get the reps up, maybe it's not the perfect fit. The Raptors development staff is something that's consistent, so maybe it could be cool, but I'm rocking with Suggs over Kaminga. And even though you're not high on Suggs, you're still trusting the suck for Suggs bandwagon.
4-man draft, you pick the best available, right?
Yeah.
I just positionally, it's the worst draft pick for the Raptors, but it's still the best available player. So you're making that move. But Ben, can't contain myself any longer. Ben Simmons, he's officially on the trade block. I don't think he's been rumored or tied to the Toronto Raptors yet, except for our blasphemous podcast suggesting that we could make a move for him if we were so inclined, because
there's been a couple of articles from US media saying the Raptors are the dark horse to pick up Ben Simmons or can have those offers or whatever, but nothing official. No official reports.
They said they want an all-star caliber player back. Well, we've got pieces, right? We have pieces. What was our initial trade proposal? It was something like Fred VanVleet.
I think it was Fred and
Stanley Johnson. Yeah. It was our fillers, maybe like Rodney Hood just as a filler. Yeah. Like maybe you'd have to toss in some seconds.
It was Fred and non-assets for Simmons. And I think if you look at this, and I'll break out the little Woj bomb segment, even though it's not Woj. Honestly, we might have to just switch Woj's face for Shams, because Shams has been killing it lately on that segment. We don't have the picture for it. Just made a video on Courtside Digest as well, breaking that whole stuff down, potential destinations there. So the picture of the port's on that video if you want to see it after we end off live. But Ryker, Shams came out and said that the Sixers are officially putting Ben Simmons on the trade block. They want an all-star in return. They turned down Malcolm Brogdon in a first-round pick for Ben Simmons earlier in the offseason. So that gives you at least a baseline of Ben Simmons' value and what they want for return. Do you think, I think you and I both regard Fred VanVleet as better than Malcolm Brogdon, but would the Raptors have to sort of add assets to get Ben Simmons, and would you be willing to sort of make a move like that?
Well, this is why I'm willing to make a move, because I've doubled down the point all podcast on how I'm not convinced that Jalen Suggs is the best pick for the Toronto Raptors, because we've already paid a lot of money our point guard of the future, who I'm not also sold on, because now that he's going to take the mantle as our number one point guard, his playmaking is not at the level of Kyle Lowry, and his three-point shooting was declined or down from what it was last season. So for all of those factors, you'd be trading back for a guy that you'd have to play at the center position, right? You're not trading back for a point guard, Ben Simmons. You're trading back for a center, Ben Simmons. And people say, well, he's not even committed to learning a jump shot. How would he be committed to going and playing out or off ball? Well, here's the thing. If he's not committed to being the shooting score first point guard, maybe he doesn't want to be point guard. Have you ever considered maybe he would prefer to be a center, because then he can really play into what his strongest assets are, which is his playmaking, his passing, his rebounding. Those are things that nobody's questioning right now. So you make that move. Now, all of a sudden, your Jalen Suggs pick becomes, you can slide him right into the starting lineup, or you can keep Lowry around for one more season and have Suggs as that surefire, develop him 1 year, make him your starter next year. I don't hate the trade. In fact, I love it. People hate it, but Ben, I don't know. Do you like it too?
I've come around on it. I'm back and forth because I love Fred VanVleet. I think he's super useful, but roster construction wise, people kind of forget that Ben Simmons is 6'10", 6'11", so he can play that center position. We have OG, we have Siakam who can slide their way up into these positions, but we do have a super chat that I thought was on the Simmons topic when I read the first sentence of it. Kyle Lowry and Suggs, but then to the Bulls from Lauri Markkanen. That's from John again.
You'd never do that in a million years.
I don't know if I'd do Boucher for Lauri Markkanen.
You wouldn't do a lot for Lauri Markkanen because he was very inconsistent this year.
He was inconsistent. He was moved to the bench. He was playing behind a Thaddeus Young. So you're definitely not giving up Suggs. You're not giving up Kyle Lowry, just even straight up for him. I like the ideas, and I was high on. I like the idea of maybe bringing in Lauri Markkanen at some point. He's a free agent. I think he's a restricted free agent this offseason. So maybe if you can get him on the cheap, his stock is very low at this point. So maybe he could be a cool acquisition if you get him on the right price, but I wouldn't be trading assets for Lauri Markkanen at this point before we diverge. Do you have any takes on Lauri before we dive back into the Simmons stock?
No, I'm not interested in him at all. So
yeah, so Lauri Markkanen, I like the idea. I like when people send in the trade ideas, break out their own trade machines, but I'm not high on that one specifically. But the Ben Simmons, to get back onto that sort of deal, him playing at center, you send out Fred VanVleet to the Philadelphia 76ers, you run Suggs at the point, maybe even bringing back Lowry at that point, because I don't know, maybe to build off of that super chat, do you think Kyle Lowry kind of gets it done for Ben Simmons? He was an all-star point guard, right? He was a guy. Would you do Lowry and Suggs for Ben Simmons? That's an interesting one because you keep Fred at that point. You have Simmons, Fred, Trent, OG, Siakam, and Simmons. That's one we haven't really talked about, which
I'm just going to base it. I'm going to base it on their report, all-star level player. And you got a guy who's already gone over the hump of his all-star tenure and he's on the downcline, and a draft pick that you never know what's going to happen with those guys. So I don't see that being a suitable trade for the 76ers, just based on them saying, in the limited information that we have about Ben Simmons being on the block, that they want an all-star type player.
They want more than Brogdon in a pick.
More than Brogdon in a pick.
I think that's definitely more than Brogdon in a pick, though.
It's definitely more than Brogdon in a pick. It's definitely more than Brogdon to pick. I just think Fred has a lot to offer, especially for that 76ers team. But doing it 1-for-1, which is basically what you and I are suggesting, I don't know if that would get it done either. But even if it would get it done, when we pitched it out the first time, people said, no, I wouldn't absolutely touch that with a 10-foot pole. And that's where it surprised me, because I said, did people listen to what our rationale was? A lot of people just went straight at it being like, why would you trade for Ben Simmons, the point guard? No, you'd never trade for Ben Simmons, the point guard. He sucks. You trade for Ben Simmons, the center, right? The playmaking, defending, rebounding center, defensive player of the year candidate, and young talent, 6'11". I can riddle off his resume, right? When you're not looking for him to be a scorer, all of a sudden he provides a lot of things that the Raptors could use at that 4 or 5 position.
Yeah, that's a cool thing there. And the Raptors will be a perfect system for Ben Simmons to play in, because firstly, he's surrounded with shooters. And let's say the hypothetical, because I think the Suggs and Lowry could potentially get it done. Those top 4 picks, they're extremely valuable, and Morey obviously would value Kyle Lowry. I think it's tough. I don't know if you can specifically add players to a sign and trade if you're that specific side, so maybe that doesn't even work out. But if you can keep Fred, or just a point guard that could shoot, one of Lowry, Suggs, or Fred VanVleet at the point guard position, Gary Trent Jr. at the 2, OG Anunoby at the 3, Siakam hopefully coming into his own, at least to what he was as 2 seasons ago, right? Where he was at least a 36% three-point shooter. Those are 4 legitimate shooters around Ben Simmons to space out him playing in the dunker spot. And then defensively, just imagine the switchability in the front court of OG Anunoby, Siakam, and Simmons down the stretch of a game, right? Simmons able to sort of clog it up down low. Him and OG, I think, could be able to handle it down low more than Boucher did specifically, or, the 2 small guard lineup, and then Norman Powell, Siakam, and OG. I think that's a modern day small ball closing lineup. You bring back Birch, so you actually have a true center that can guard people if we do get crushed down low, which we definitely saw with the micro ball this season. Defensively, it certainly makes sense. Offensively, there's shooting around Simmons, which would allow him to drive. And we've seen Simmons without Embiid out there on the court, Embiid and Horford when he was, I don't know why the Sixers end up giving him a max contract, but we've seen him go off for 40-point nights when it's his team alone with shooters around him. So maybe he's just completely unlocked on this Raptors team. But even if that's not the case, Riker, I think the point that gets overlooked a lot with Ben Simmons is the passing ability. Marc Gasol, the second best passing big man in the league, won us a championship. Nick Nurse throwing the ball to him in the high post and making the right reads, the no looks, and he wasn't much of a shooter either in his time at the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, could shoot it better than Ben Simmons, but Ben Simmons, I think if you put him to the center position, he's not Jokic, but I think he might make the claim as one of the best passing big men in the league. Throw him in the high post, his threat of driving, and then just be able to make reads as players are cutting off him. Nick Nurse can do a lot with Ben Simmons there.
Yeah. You don't have to convince me at how good he could be. I think we've brought all of our points home. I'm going to give the argument on the other side of things. The biggest reason outside of him not being able to shoot the three. Well, guess what? You can have one guy out on your team that doesn't shoot the three. You're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how the NBA works. DeAndre Ayton's not out there hucking up threes. Maybe he is. Maybe I'll eat my words after I look at the stats, but he's not out there putting up threes. The rest of the team is.
Mm-hmm.
But if Hack Ben Simmons is a legitimate thing where he's so in his head that you can't play him to close a game because they're just going to foul him intentionally and he's going to hit every one out of 3 free throws, yeah, he becomes unplayable at that point. It's absurd to me to think a guy that has $127 million left guaranteed can't learn in the offseason how to put a basketball in from 6 feet uncontested. I don't know. There's something extremely 12 feet, something extremely 15, is it? I'm going in my own head how far a free throw is, but anyways,
15 feet.
They're extremely easy. It's the easiest shot in the game. And, but this season alone, you could make the argument that if you're paying this guy all this money and you can't have him out there because they're going to foul him intentionally and he's going to miss his free throws. Yeah, I get that point.
Yeah, that's the one thing, but you got to take risks if you want to win an NBA championship. That's the big thing there. But Riker, we're going long in this podcast here, and it's been a while since there's been a certain alarm go off. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if you're ready for it. I don't know if the chat's ready for it, but I think it's time to bust it out. Woo woo woo! Beep 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 beep. Beep 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 beep. Beep 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 beep. That's right. The final alarm has gone on. You're slacking on your alarm duties, Riker. I don't know.
I'm laughing at the chats. It's getting intense in the
chat. Read out some chats. This is the time where we read your questions about what's happening right now. I'm far away. The new studio, I'm further away. I'm gonna have to start rocking my contacts for these. But what are you seeing in the chat, Riker?
I'm gonna have to get my glasses on too.
Get the spectacles.
I'm reading out. Yeah. I think, well, listen, I'm going to have glare, but when the proper lighting comes in, then it's going to be a game changer. I
don't have my glasses by me.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start scrolling up. There's always a time delay with
so
this stuff anyway.
Country Kong is asking for the kazoo, so we'll play the kazoos while we find out some cool end of segments. But Bowman saying a 3-team trade. Kings get Ben Simmons, Sixers get Lowry and Buddy Hield, and the Raptors get George Hill, Bagley, and Sacramento's 9th pick. So essentially the Raptors in this one give away Lowry, and they get George Hill, Bagley, and the 9th pick. If we're losing Lowry, I like that return for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah. I mean,
that's actually a really cool trade. I think the Kings accept that as well.
No.
They get Ben Simmons, and they're giving up Bagley, who wants to leave. And I guess Buddy Hield's the tough one. Buddy Hield's the tough addition to that. But
actually, supposedly the trade is Fox and Hield for Simmons, which
really,
yeah, because they want to build around Halliburton apparently at the 1, which is crazy. But
he's pretty good.
I don't know.
Simmons there.
Tough to put myself in the mindset of Kings front office. They do crazy moves.
So maybe they do this one. I don't know. I don't know if the Sixers accept this. Maybe that 9th pick would have to go to Sacramento, but would be a cool return for Kyle Lowry if he's going to be leaving anyways. But Jared's asking for a shout out for his brother Muggsy. Shout out Muggsy.
Shout out your brother Muggsy.
Shout out Muggsy. Where do you think Kawhi is going? Is he staying with the Clippers? That's from Terex.
He's staying with the Clippers.
Terex.
He's staying. I see. Oh yeah. I see Maestro Gaming. I'm curious where you guys stand on Boucher. Do you keep him or trade him while his value is high?
You're keeping Boucher.
Oh yeah, you keep him. We said that at the middle. He's not at his ceiling yet.
Yep.
He's not there.
You know, he's an old young guy. He's not an old guy just yet. He's only he's 27.
He's not an old young guy.
Is he a young old guy?
Oh, true. I guess you're saying that he's old, but a young version.
You know, he's young in the NBA, young in spirit. He picked up basketball late, so I think Boucher is coming into his own. Obviously, the injury's a little bit questionable this season, but he was a monster off the bench for this team. He's a perfect backup four in the modern NBA. Plays defense, shoots the threes. That's something that I'd like to see. Danny's out here. You don't need Buddy Hield. They have Fox and Halliburton. Wait, do we get Buddy Hield? What are you saying, Danny? He thinks the Kings accept.
Says the Raptors should trade Lowry and Boucher. Maybe 2 first-rounders for Ben Simmons, move Siakam to the Warriors for Wiggins and Wiseman. No. And that's a lot. Trade up. And then trade up for the first pick? And then move up from 4 to 2 for Green. I mean, that would be insane. Then you're playing with your 2K My GM hat on right there. But not that many things are going to happen. I'd expect one domino or one token to move this offseason. I don't expect 3 or 4 different, organization changing trades to happen. So pick your poison. If you want Simmons, who do you want to trade for him? If you want to move up in the draft, who do you want to trade? If you're moving Pascal Siakam, that is certainly going to be it. You're not playing puzzle pieces after you move your number one guy, your number one option. So
yeah, that's a lot of stuff happening right there. I'm not sure if it's going down. Nova's asking, do you guys want the Raptors program? We do. I've responded on my broken email, and then I got to respond on the digest email. We haven't. Have you been checking the Raptors digest at gmail.com?
Yeah, I get automatic updates on my phone if there's an email.
Okay, I've been slacking on peeping.
I haven't had too many emails, so
send us some emails, guys.
If you want to be pen pals with us,
Raptors digest at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a couple super chats though. Breaking out this segment, Christian Burton, Cade, in my opinion, isn't worth trading up for. I'm in agreement for that, especially with the cost that it would take to acquire Cade Cunningham at the top, probably an OG, probably a main core piece. What would you trade? 4th, and what player would you do for Cade? Would you do 4th and Fred? No? Yeah, I wouldn't either, especially where Suggs does have that potential, and I know Cade has that juice, has that next level ability, yada, yada, yada. But Fred, he's a beast. He's a baller, and you already got the 4th pick. But John, he's back in the super chat. Sign and trade Lowry for Mitchell Robinson, Kevin Knox, and Taj Gibson. That's a solid return for Kyle Lowry, especially if he wants to go to the Knicks, right? That's if Lowry's going to leave, I'm happy with any value we can get back for him. And Mitchell Robinson would be a nice center addition.
Well, the Knicks have 6 guys on guaranteed contract next year. Quigley and Randall and RJ is the only 3 that he left out. They're not trading away 3 of their 6 confirmed for Lowry, of all people. They're going young. They're building around that core. I don't think Lowry makes sense for the Knicks. Speaking as a Knicks fan.
Yeah, the big Knicks guy on the pod. You got the hat. You got the hat there ready to go.
I never brought any of it back with me.
You never brought the Knicks hat back with you. You're done with the Knicks following their postseason flame.
I'll have to buy, or I'll have to make even better some knockoff Knicks gear. Some Walmart Knicks gear.
The Walmart Knicks gear. No Walmart hat. No nothing. It's a new season. It's a new summer for the Toronto Raptors. But yeah, that I tend to agree. I think if they're gonna rock with an old point guard, it's gonna be Derrick Rose that they're gonna give money to. I think that's
they're not going Derrick Rose and Kyle Lowry. No way.
That's the route. Aris, hey, can you guys see us in the chat? I can see. When you see my head going over, that's when I be seeing, because no context today. But
All right. I'm saying we call it. I'm saying we keep it close to a 2-minuter. I'm looking for dinner here soon.
looking for Din Din on
Yeah.
the live pod. You don't want to go for 2 hours.
No, we hit an hour and 1 minute.
Is it
We're
Riker's
overtime.
bedtime
We're
already?
overtime.
Is it Riker's
We're on the
bedtime
clock.
already?
No.
Throwback.
We're at least 15 minutes away from my bedtime.
At least 15 minutes. He's got to get a bit of supper. Got to get a bit of stuff going. So if you want to spam in the last questions, you can. What like are we at? What are we looking for likes, Riker? Should we get a little like spike going?
I mean, 100 would be nice, but we've got some dislikes now too.
Ooh.
The negative energy seeping into the podcast right now. Whoever's disliking that, shocking.
We got a lot of stuff. We got 300 people in this chat, which is solid. We were a bit slow starting off, but people started joining in. Someone's asking for a booze trade idea. Pascal to the Sixers, Simmons to the Cavs, and the Raptors get the third pick plus fillers. Raptors say no to that. We're not just trading Siakam for one pick. Siakam's an all NBA guy. I like the creativity, but I'm saying no to that one, Riker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Ryker Leonard, load management. People are roasting it. Riker's hungry. Old Rikey is hungry. To end off the pod, Ken Boucher for
we
Simmons.
hit 100 likes though, so
we hit 100 likes.
That's a perfect time to wrap it up, Ben.
We're rocking it out. Dan's in the chat saying Riker is the Walmart Blake Griffin. I like that I have my hair long, so I don't get the Blake Griffin comparisons anymore. It's been a nice change. You got the beard, but anyways, we're happy to be back live. Might have to do another one of these if the news isn't coming hot and heavy, because usually we do the videos for news. We'll definitely be live for the NBA draft. That's in a couple weeks, but a lot of stuff happening. People are getting me to say about they threw the double O's. You're in Ontario, Riker, so I don't got that. You got more of the mainland accent than I do. But a lot of questions. Again, hop in the comment section. Hit us up on IG. That's about to get popping again. Email us at Raptors Digest. We got to add that to the plug-in session now. But you guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the before I end it off, we have a super chat, Riker. It's always coming in clutch with super chats. Eric Jacob, he's saying Eric Jacob, I believe. Flynn Boucher in the 4th pick for Vucevic. I know you're the biggest Vucevic fan, so.
Nah. Well, it's because I put him on my all tank team
players, yeah.
Yeah, but listen, he's a bucket though. He's a bucket. It's just he's an unathletic bucket, so you'd have to have a really solid defensive team around him, and the Raptors do have that. But if you're not trading a lot for him, I'd trade for him. But he's probably locked in the Bulls now.
Yeah, Flynn Boucher in the 4th. They gave up 2 lottery picks for him, so that's tough for the Bulls. They didn't even make the playoffs this year with him at it. I don't know. I'd pass on Boucher. That'd be an interesting tandem. Boucher and Nikola Vucevic. We're getting weird. We're ending it off. Super chats in the middle of the outro. But Instagram, TikTok, all that cool stuff. Courtside Digest. Want to give a little plug here. We got 276 concurrent viewers in here. Got the videos coming in hot and heavy on Courtside Digest. We're looking to grow that left, right, and center. If you guys can tell your friends about that channel, it's going to be fun. Obviously, Raptors Digest, we're going to be spamming stuff here as well. But as the NBA rumors, all the stuff, just had a video on Ben Simmons. A lot of cool stuff popping. Check us out over there. Riker, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to shout out as we end off this video, this pod?
No, that's good. It's good to be back.
Good to be back.
All right. Cheers.